I'm here to talk to you about everyone's two favorite topics, sexual assault and math. Actually, I'm here to talk to you about my experiences in sexual assault activism and what I was able to accomplish because of my unique position as a student and as a scientist. So study after study after study has shown that sexual violence is a big problem on college campuses and university campuses across this country. And yes, that means even here at Tulane. But despite the overwhelming evidence, a shocking amount of administrators still refuse to admit that there's a significant problem. In a 2015 survey of just under 650 college and university presidents from around the country, about 1/3 of university presidents reported that they strongly agreed or agreed that sexual violence was a problem on campuses, and another 40% were neutral about the topic. But when those same presidents were asked about their own schools, over 75% disagreed or strongly disagreed that sexual assault was a problem on their own campuses. So clearly there's some disconnect here from an administrative level, who seem to believe that sexual assault's happening, just not at their school. Unsurprisingly, students have a better idea of what's going on their campuses. And when students were asked a similar question in the 2015 AAU Campus Climate Survey, which sampled students from 27 different schools across the country, about 2/3 of students reported that sexual assault was at least somewhat of a problem on their campuses. And this difference shouldn't really be surprising to us, since students are the people most in touch with the culture created on their campus. But the message that this should be sending to university administrators is that when your students, the people who eat, sleep, live, and work on your campuses, tell you that something's a problem, they're probably right. So now we seem to be reaching a critical point where more and more schools are actually starting to listen. I'm especially proud of the steps we've taken here at Tulane in recent years. And during my time here, I've got to witness and even participate in some truly inspiring forms of activism on this topic. More recently, I've been involved in the Sexual Violence Prevention and Education Coalition, which is a team of faculty, staff, students, and administrators all organizing to combat sexual violence on our campus. It was here that I got to see some of the behind-the-scenes work on the pilot climate survey, conducted in 2014 and presented last fall at the Shifting the Paradigm event. Though this was just a pilot study, it did give us some really helpful preliminary data on the rates of sexual violence here at Tulane. And more importantly, Tulane administrators showed that they were so committed to this problem that they chose to publicly share this data. That wasn't something they had to do, especially considering the preliminary nature of the results. But because they were so kind, I felt that it was extremely important that we as students made the most out of these insights. So because I had already spent so much time looking at the data before it was announced publicly, I had researched and read these numbers over and over again. I looked up the most widely accepted methods for analyzing sexual assault statistics, and I analyzed Tulane's data using similar methods, all in my free time for fun. So you could say I had a pretty good understanding of the numbers, but I still felt it was really important that my peers were able to draw their own conclusions from the data. So, with the help of a friend, I made a video to help my fellow students understand how to read sexual assault statistics. And this involved just asking a few simple questions, such as, what time frame do the data refer to, or is the sample representative of the population as a whole? But we received an overwhelmingly positive response from students here at Tulane and from other schools too, all saying how much it helped them understand these data that were coming up more and more frequently in the news. So reading graphs and charts is pretty much second nature to me because I'm a scientist, but I'm acutely aware that that's not the case for everyone. But because this type of instructional video came from me, a student, I was able to help share my knowledge in a way that other students were more likely to respond to. I played up my own strengths in order to spread awareness on this really important topic, and everyone walked away from it more knowledgeable and passionate about fighting sexual assault. So I tell this story because it highlights the ability of students to create change. Student activism has been around for a long time, but especially in recent years, student activists have made monumental strides in raising awareness for sexual assault. But what a lot of students don't realize is that you don't have to be holding a protest sign or staging a demonstration to be considered a student activist. Instead, Activism simply involves identifying your cause and carrying it with you. The things that you truly care about resonate throughout everything you do and every decision that you make. Being an activist simply means embodying your cause. And activism can happen in monumental shifts as well as through tiny steps. It can be as simple as buying a cup of coffee, or as difficult as sharing your most traumatic truths as a survivor. But either way, the first step is simple. It's identifying what you're passionate about and figuring out what you personally are capable of doing. I cannot stress enough how crucial student activism is to the sexual assault movement. We as students often forget the power we have to create change. But do you know who doesn't forget it? The White House. That's why their 2013 Dear Colleague letter established that colleges and universities could not retaliate against students for sharing their stories as survivors and demanding action. That's how powerful we are. And that's why we've got to keep this momentum going. Motivation should not be a problem, since each and every person in this room has undoubtedly been touched by sexual violence in one way or another. To all of the survivors out there, you matter as more than just a number. And to all of the people who love someone who's experienced sexual assault, your support is invaluable. And to anyone lucky enough to not fall into one of those two groups, you should be outraged that you are the minority in this room. All of these experiences form the basis for change. And the first step is so simple. Let these feelings drive you and step up to claim the identity of activist in whatever way makes most sense to you. I myself have only recently been able to come out as a survivor. But for me personally, claiming the title of activist was perhaps even more empowering. It's allowed me to turn my pain into power. It's given my personal experiences political meanings, and it's made my successes in activism into personal triumphs. So I encourage all of you to step up and claim your place in a long history of student activism, because we have the ability and the obligation to create change. And here at Tulane, we believe non sibi sed sui, not for oneself, but for one's own.